just to level set, we wanted to talk about blacklisting and brands and sort of what that's about. And can you give us sort of a quick explanation of why blacklisting has been used, why it's valuable, and why it needs to be reevaluated through this period we're going through right now?
Sure. So thanks, Andy, for having me on. This is not a new phenomenon. I think we've been talking about brand safety and brand suitability for some time, for several years. And obviously, brands are sensitive about the environments in which they appear. I would kind of bifurcate the challenge into kind of two parts. One is obviously brands don't want to be associated with things that are like hate and violence and porn and all the stuff that's obviously not appropriate for brand advertising. On the other side is the more kind of contextual relevance, or what we call brand suitability. And there are, as you would imagine, a spectrum of brands and brand sensibilities and sensitivities to the environments in which they operate. So in today's day and age, there are some brands that opt out of news, as an example, as they don't want to be seen in environments that might not be positive and uplifting and beneficial. What we're asking folks to do, we had an op-ed piece that we did a couple of days ago, is to reevaluate that in light of the health crisis that we're all facing. News shouldn't be blacklisted. News should not be blocked from advertising support. We need the news now more than ever before. So that's our ask. There's a bunch of folks that are kind of keyword blocking anything around COVID-19 or coronavirus or that kind of stuff. News and natural disasters sometimes gets lumped into something that is not ad supported. And we believe that a healthy kind of news ecosystem is required for us to save as many lives as we possibly can. So we need to support it.
So what do you, how does it work in terms of what are brands to do? Do they control this? Do the DSPs control it? How do you sort of turn the ship around?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts at the brand level. I mean, obviously brands work either directly or with agencies, and brands will direct agencies. Like I said, this is not a new conversation. The conversation's already taken place as to what should be our de facto kind of standard for avoiding content. And then now in today's day and age, I'm sure there's been a lot of reevaluation over the past couple of weeks as to where they should move out of. You raise a good point. So there is some instances where you can actually block before the ad gets served. In some environments, you will just run a kind of a house ad instead of running your pre-selected creative. So that's mostly in the kind of programmatic space. So in the non-pre-bid environment. And one of the things that I think is happening, which is actually a good outgrowth, is that people are replacing some of that kind of PSA inventory with inventory around the health crisis that we're currently in. So to answer your question, the short answer is it starts at the brand, it gets communicated to agencies. There's a whole host of third-party verification companies which actually work on behalf of brands and agencies to block some of this content. I think you will find, Andy, over the next coming days and weeks, there is an overall acknowledgement. We've gotten a lot of really good positive feedback as of late, that most people agree that we need news now more than ever, and that I hope that we're going to start seeing folks come back to that environment in the short term and in the long term.
Which kind of brings me to your old job not too long ago as one of the big media buyers. What advice would you have to media buyers in the media community in terms of investment now? I know everybody's obviously nervous and there's a lot of considerations of what to do. What would you say in terms of investment, particularly around digital news?
Yeah, I mean, digital news, I think, is, we've been very, very clear. Do not block the news. Align on the 10, 20, 50, 100 news outlets that you believe to be credible news sources and make sure that you invest advertising dollars there. Critically important. I think overall, if you take it at the macro level, I'm not naive. I remember vividly what happens in times like these. Most people will take a stop or a pause for a very limited period of time, rethink, replan, reevaluate, and then get back in market. My hope is that we get back in market soon. I think that hopefully we will be past this sooner than some predict, and the thirst and the hunger for advertising and marketing will never be greater. So we don't want to start from a dead stop. We want to make sure that we continue to have appropriate messages, which I think is another thing that I would just say. The brands that are the kind of most leaned in today that have not stopped their advertising are ones that are addressing the current state with new messaging. So messaging relevant to the environment in which we operate, as opposed to just running what they were running 3 or 4 months ago. The world is obviously a different place today. So appropriate messaging is critically important.